Welcome to Turning Hard Times into Good Times. I am your host, Jay Taylor. I'm speaking to you from the Borough of Queens. It is the 18th day of October 2022, and as I said, I'm speaking to you from the Borough of Queens in New York City. I do want to thank each of you for listening to the show, making it one of the more popular shows in the Voice America Business Channel. Also, want to invite you to keep sending along whatever comments you have about this show to questionsfortaylor@gmail.com. Questions, the number 4, Taylor@gmail.com. Do want to thank our sponsors for making this show economically viable. Irving Resources, Novo Resources, Gold Bull Resources, El Oro Resources, Reyna Gold Mining, Lion One Metals, and Timberline Resources. The title of this week's show is How Real is the Threat of Nuclear War? Daniel McAdams returns to share his insights into the current geopolitical landscape and to comment on the views of Tulsi Gabbard regarding the threat of the Ukraine war morphing into a catastrophic nuclear holocaust. Daniel will be with me in the second half of today's show. This show has almost always been about the markets and how to best protect your God-given wealth. But as I was preparing for this week's show, the idea of wealth being gained in the stock and bond markets rang emotionally hollow for me as I thought about the very real and growing threats of World War III and a growing possibility of a nuclear end of humanity. Even our president has been talking about it. American news has recently been reminding us almost every day about Putin's threat to use nuclear weapons to protect Russia against the American-led NATO empire, which Putin believes is an existential threat to Russia's right to exist as a sovereign nation. And so it shouldn't be a huge surprise that Putin might very well mean what he says when he says that Russia not only reserves the right to use nuclear weapons to protect its sovereignty, but also given the fact that Russia has recently amended its own laws in preparation to do so, if or when the leaders of Russia believe NATO poses a threat to its right to exist. There are at least some signs that America is also preparing to launch nuclear weapons, given recent advertisements. There was one viewed in New York City television stations a few weeks back where a very attractive actress was seen advising New Yorkers how to prepare for a nuclear war. Support for the use of nuclear weapons is pretty much a bipartisan position. That fact, as well as a number of anti-constitutional policies being proposed and implemented by the Democrat Party, led former presidential candidate Tulsi Gabbard to leave the Democrat Party to become an independent. Listen now to Tulsi Gabbard as she explains her reason for leaving the Democrats to become an independent. Matt, could you play that clip from Tulsi Gabbard?
I can no longer remain in today's Democratic Party that's under the complete control of an elitist cabal of warmongers who are driven by cowardly wokeness, who divide us by racializing every issue and stoking anti-white racism, who actively work to undermine our God-given freedoms that are enshrined in our Constitution, who are hostile to people of faith and spirituality, who demonize the police but protect criminals at the expense of law-abiding Americans, who believe in open borders, who weaponize the national security state to go after their political opponents, and above all, who are dragging us ever closer to nuclear war. Now, I believe in a government that's of the people, by the people, and for the people. Unfortunately, today's Democratic Party does not. Instead, it stands for a government that is of, by, and for the powerful elite. Now, I'm calling on my fellow common sense, independent-minded Democrats to join me in leaving the Democratic Party. If you can no longer stomach the direction that the so-called woke Democratic Party ideologues are taking our country, then I invite you to join me.
So that was former Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard's explanation for why she is leaving the Democrat Party. In her view, that party is putting power and privilege above their duty to obey the Constitution, which calls for elected officials to serve their constituents rather than their own self-interest.